where were you when this happened 20 years ago today?
20 years ago, I don't want to give away my age, but
Well, you're a year older than me, so I
I
remember watching this live
was
on TV though.
I was in high school. I'll just say I was in high school. I remember where
Yeah.
I remember where I was on 9/11, which was crazy. I remember where I
So
was.
I remember when this happened.
Yeah, I remember all of this very well.
The initial
Like,
invasion of Iraq began 20 years ago today, and this was the shock and awe campaign that we all watched live. And
beneath all of this, emergency teams raced across the city.
let me tell you something. There was a lot of messed up shit that was happening in the United States over all this.
yeah,
There was the neighborhood that I live in now. The neighborhood that I live in now,
yeah.
back then was primarily Arabic, Muslim, Arabic, whatever you want to call it. The different people.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget it. I literally, and people call me racist, whatever, but I saw this with my own eyes. So don't tell me what I saw. But they were literally partying in the streets in this neighborhood when this happened. So there's a lot of people that came into this country that were very anti-American, or maybe they were just pro their own country. I don't know, but it was fucked up. Now it's very different. I don't think those same people would cheer now, because now they know that they're living a better life in America. But back then, they were just still very much, this is my home, this is my country. I'm going to stand up for my country. Fuck America, even though I'm living here. But yeah, they were very happy.
You mean
they
when
were literally
9/11
partying
happened?
in the streets. When 9/11 happened, I mean, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were partying in the streets. Yep, they were.
Yeah, I remember there was a lot of flag burning and stuff happening at this time town. But it's really interesting because I've gone such full circle when it comes to the Iraq War and, how I view war. I've become very much anti-war. I'm more of an isolationist now, because I've said this. I was a neocon after 9/11. I was very much somebody who thought we should have invaded Iraq. We thought that they had weapons of mass destruction and all this stuff. And it took me until about 2015, serving in the Army for 5 years. And they were teaching me to see big picture foreign policy. And I looked at the map, and not how to actually invade a country. And I looked at the map, and I realized that Afghanistan is over here and Iraq is over here and Iran's in the middle. The reason why we went into Afghanistan or into Iraq was to have a strategic position on Iran. And then you see ISIS, come to power, and you start to realize, when you start to do research history, you realize it's just history repeating itself. We've destabilized the region for so long that's the reason why we continuously radicalize these people to commit crime like this stuff against us. And that's how bin Laden himself was radicalized by our invasion or our involvement in Saudi Arabia. And so you just start to realize, we shouldn't be intervening, in other people's problems. That's why I'm very much no, we should not be, sending Ukraine
$200 billion.
We shouldn't be sending them anything. It's not our problem. It's really not. I mean, I'm a minarchist, so I believe that we need to have a standing military to defend our borders and bring all of the troops within our own borders, and we don't need to have people spread everywhere around the world. And that's basically it. And since that time, I think most of the country is kind of in that mindset. I mean, when you see somebody like Dan Crenshaw kind of be when Alex Stein was going after Dan Crenshaw, calling him neocon, the neocon position and the Warhawk liberals, those positions are now the minority in Congress, it seems. And until we start funding Ukraine, it's it flips back and forth. Where are you at with that, though? I mean, what do you think about
with the war.
Foreign policy, I guess.
I don't know. I've heard both. I've heard both sides. I tend to want to agree with your side, but I've heard that the reason people are going to are getting the reason our people are getting involved is because it will give us an upper hand in the world overall, and I think that's a fair assessment. Like I think that makes sense, and it really just it's one of those things where you have to just see how it plays out. I think right now I don't think. I'm not sure if the money, first of all, we don't even know where the hell the money's going, right? We don't know where the money's going in Ukraine. Like $200 billion, and I feel like nothing's gotten done. I also, I can understand, of course, I can understand why we sent, we basically wanted to intervene because otherwise Russia is going to become a stronger power. And then, of course, China's going to go after Taiwan and whatever it was, and Hong Kong and stuff. But I don't think, I mean, ideally, I think everybody should just stick to themselves because for the most part, if they wanted to leave their country, most countries allow that, right? There's a lot of people can travel, right? But I think from what I understand, people telling me about politics and such, I'm not well versed in that topic, but I do understand that a lot of those people, somebody said Ukraine isn't my problem. They're not an ally. Here's the thing. I have a friend that's Ukrainian.
Yeah.
I do have a friend that's Ukrainian. And my friend Stephanie from 90 Day Fiance, and she told me that there is in fact a lot of corruption in Russia and in the Ukraine, which is very true.
Well,
there's corruption in both, And
so, I mean, just remember, Burisma was the big thing during the election, and Burisma is the reason why Trump was impeached the first time, was because he was looking into Hunter Biden's involvement in Burisma, which is a natural gas company in Ukraine, which is ironic that you realize they run out of heat every year in the wintertime, and they biggest producers of natural gas in the world. And so you kind of see some of that corruption and everything.
Yeah, it just feels like it's poorly run.
Yeah, when I was at that anti-war rally, so when I was at that anti-war rally in DC, and Ron Paul and Tulsi Gabbard and everybody was there, one of the biggest themes was that Russia started an illegal war because all wars are illegal. I think that's what Jill Stein actually said. All wars are illegal, but this war wasn't unprovoked. I think that's what people don't realize is the Bush Senior in the early 90s actually said that they made an accord that they would not push east of Germany. NATO would never expand east of Germany, and now they basically have rockets in Poland which can reach Russia. So like that's kind of again how NATO itself has kind of provoked a response for Putin.
Yeah, no,
there's no good guys in this situation.
I agree with that. I think everyone's making Putin out to be the bad guy, but people don't realize that this. I do think that it's Biden's fault that he did what he's going to do now, but either way, he would have done it eventually because it's been he just didn't do it during Trump because he was afraid of Trump, I think. But I had these two friends who were from Houston, and they actually think Putin, I mean, they don't know him as a person, obviously, but they think the reason he's doing this makes a lot of sense.
I took like a month to figure out what my stance on this whole thing was. And that's kind of when I saw like the reasoning. You learn that Ukraine, there was a coup in 2013. It was a U.S. and NATO-backed coup. Prior to 2013, they had a pro-Russian president, and then they basically ousted him with a coup. And they've been fighting in the Donbass. Like there's been a civil war in the Donbass region since then. And so basically, like Zelensky and then whoever the president was before him have basically been murdering and killing their own people for the last 8 years or whatever that is. It was 10 years. And so, honestly, if they're pro-Russian in that region, you guys have been in a civil war. Maybe you just give that region to Russia and call it a day. Like if you can negotiate that out, like you've been killing them. You've been shooting at them. Why do you want them to stay in your country? Let them go, I guess, you know? Yeah, it's crazy. Let me see. Yeah, over on Rumble, 3MM says it was before Zelensky is a U.S. stooge, and I think that's true. And when you look at Soros, George Soros has been funding Ukraine since the fall of the
Yep.
Soviet Union. So
Mhm.
you start to see where the money flows, and you're like, okay, I can see how this is kind of working right now and why we're so supportive. I actually think we might be so supportive, especially in the US, because if we don't give them money, then they will leak secrets about Burisma, the stuff that Trump was actually wondering about. So that's kind of how they had the Biden administration kind of caught up in all this.